championship winner. Da Costa and Evans are very much in the fight. Norman Nato, not so much, but could play an important supporting role to his teammate. Robin Freitz is in the championship hunt. Lucas de Grassi won yesterday. Oliver Rowland a little too far back to be in contention. Sam Bird is there or thereabouts. Sebastian Buemi, a thumbs up after a strong qualifying performance yesterday. Oliver Turvey arriving also. And who's that? Oh, it's John-Eric Verne. But this is how the championship looks coming into this final race day. There's 30 points up for grabs, so 14 drivers are still in contention. But up at the top, it is Nick de Vries, who is 3 points clear of Eduardo Mortaro, who's 1 point clear of Jake Dennis. 6 points separate the top 5 drivers in the championship. If any of those top 5 drivers win today, they win the championship. It's as simple as that. Obviously, depending on what happens on qualifying, but that's the kind of general consensus. The championship is in all of their hands. Pascal Wehrlein 13th, Günther 14th. And then Stoffel van Dorn is out of contention, as is Rowland, Lotterer, Sims, Muller, Nato, Buemi, Camera, Turvey and Blomqvist. The team's championship is arguably even tighter, and this is where the prize money is paid out as well. So it's a very, very important championship. Even if you don't win it, you want to be as high up the order as possible to get the prize fund, basically. But Jaguar Racing are 5 points clear of DS Techeetah, Envision Virgin Racing a third at the moment. My name's Jack Nichols. Dario Franchitti is alongside me. We're going backwards today, Dario.
Absolutely. Same track, but backwards. Fixed overnight. They finished at 1 o'clock this morning. Off the start line, 2.355 kilometers, by the way. The same 10 turns as yesterday. Turn 1 a little bit tighter today on the entry. Down in heavy braking of 2. Lots of action there on this direction last year. The kink through 3, arguably more difficult than the other direction. Turn 5, attack mode activation on the outside. Prepare for fireworks there, especially as the cars merge back together. Interesting braking zone into 6 and 7. And then the last corner, turn 10, 270 degrees, torturing the tyres as you head over the finish line. And that is the battleground, and I think it will be a battleground today, Jack.
Absolutely. What does it feel like when it's race day and you arrive at the track and you put your helmet on and you're going to tell me it just feels like any other day?
Absolutely not, no. But you train your brain, and I was always working hard to stay calm, really calm, and almost like I would put myself into a trance or whatever, but I was managed to stay very calm, very focused, and just the whole time was anything out with my bubble, didn't deal with, and that was the way I kind of focused on championships.
And how easy is that to do when, people are asking you questions? And so, for example, after this session, as we see Mitch Evans getting ready, I've got to go and speak to Jake Dennis, and you've got to ask him, you're in contention for the title, can you win the championship today? How does that affect your preparations when annoying people like me ask you stuff like that?
Part of my brain would deal with it, but not the part that was thinking about the job in hand. So I'd learned to sort of compartmentalize, I can't even say the word, that whole process and experience definitely helps.
Yeah. There is Nick de Vries getting ready to head out, the championship leader. No points yesterday. A brace of second places in London put him in the championship lead, but qualifying yesterday was very difficult for the Mercedes EQ squad. Out of the garage they go, and for the first time, it is the Neos that are first out. Tom Blomqvist getting very excited, leaving the pit lane, and because of the reverse pit lane, suddenly it's the Neos that are first out on circuit, which is quite unusual. It's usually the championship-winning team from last year, DS Techeetah, that have the front garage, but now they are at the back of the queue. So a different circuit to learn. Now it's going to be different for the drivers in terms of basically which way they're turning and the way the corner comes. But is it going to be different in terms of the team, or would the setup be essentially the same?
Most of it, yes, would be the same, because it's the same surface, the same type of speed of corners, but the details of when, how much you're maybe turning and accelerating, or turning and braking, or where the bumps appear. Like turn 5 today on exit, there's a huge bump today on acceleration. That was in braking yesterday, so you might have to change the damper settings, that kind of stuff. But this morning, I think the teams will be as really focused as just making sure what they did in the simulator as far as energy saving and being able to run quickly while saving energy, that all that type of stuff is actually, the simulator's actually simulating correctly and not just wasting their time.
So there they come then through the final corners at 9 and 10, and here's Oliver Turvey out in front, and it looks quite dirty out there, doesn't it?
Looks dirty, and you can see how low the sun is in the sky as well. And I'm trying to think on which corner you will really get hit. As you come through turn 2, it's going to probably catch you in the eyes, and maybe in the braking zone for one.
Probably some dirt brought onto the track while they were redoing it over the course of the evening with all the diggers and stuff. As Mitch Evans then, another podium finish yesterday, his 5th podium finish of the season. They've all been 3rd places, and he's only 5 points off the championship lead, and he comes into this weekend in a really strong position, stronger than his teammate Sam Bird. And I wrote a column about this on the Formula E website, where when Evans hit the wall in New York, it felt like a big disaster for him because he was about to move 2nd in the standings. Sam Bird, top of the standings, there behind him in the other Jaguar, hasn't scored in the last 3 races since then, but because Evans got bumped down to Group 2, he's actually had some reasonable results and is much more in contention than his teammate.
Yeah, it's also important to say, I think, that Sam Bird, you see him there on the screen in the Jaguar, you know, yesterday, he didn't do anything wrong. He's just driving along the thing, the car essentially switched off, and I don't know if that was because he had big contact, somebody hit him on lap 1, he didn't hit the other car, somebody hit him, and the car just shut down, and that was it, and you could tell his frustration. He's like, you know, this is, it was one of those, this always happens, I get close and this always happens, and he was definitely feeling a bit down yesterday, but got to pick himself up for today and get on with the job in hand.
27 minutes on the clock. There is the BMW I of Max Günther coming down through the first corner, and heading down towards now turn 2. And no, it is Jake Dennis, my apologies. And this is the driver who is 3rd in the standings. Finished 5th yesterday, having started 8th. I would actually class yesterday as an underperformance from Dennis, if I'm being brutally honest. I said I'm interviewing him later. I might not ask him that. But he wanted to be in Super Pole, but lost time, held up by traffic in the final sector. He claimed a 10th and a half. And then he had his eyes, he had, you know, sights on the podium of Mitch Evans, didn't he? Had a bit more energy, but couldn't quite make the move. Some aggressive defensive work from, who was it that was in front of him? Who was aggressively defending? Finished, oh, it was Norman Nato, wasn't it, in the Venturi?
No, Nato was definitely being aggressive on the defence. Here's the thing about Nato. He's completely out of the championship. The team game might start playing today. Stoffel van Dorn's no longer in the championship, so he could help his teammate Nick de Vries. So it's going to get quite interesting. Maybe with, I mean, Rast he's an outside bet of the championship, but is he going to help De Grassi, that sort of thing? Is that all going to start happening? Is Cassidy, who's still in championship contention, going to try and help Robin Freins? That man there.
Yeah, here is Freins. It'll all just depend on where they qualify. I think so much will become clearer then.
So you were asking about mindset of a race weekend, as we hear from Robin.
Entry is also poor.
Entry is also poor, says Freins, who they struggled yesterday. DS to Cheetah, that was turn 1 he was talking about. Envision Virgin, sorry. They struggled yesterday, but Freins' quali lap, if it wasn't for his terrible error at the final corner where he lost half a second, it would have been okay, and he would have been more up in the mix. But they're certainly not on it here as they have been in the past. But yes, I was asking earlier about mindset.
Okay, so your mindset, any race weekend is difficult, right? You've got to get the mindset you want to win, and the points are the same in the first race as the last race. All that being said, the championship is everything's coming into focus, and you realise that today you've got this one lap. You don't get multiple laps at it as in other series. You've got one lap to tie it all together and be inch perfect, and the times are, you're hundredths of a second apart from your competitors, and the pressure that the drivers are under to perform, and the difficulty of actually performing at the limit, not beyond and not less than the limit, is incredible. So qualifying today, yeah, is super important. The championship, as you've said, Jack, and could hinge on it.
What does pressure feel like in the car? So as an example, when I'm doing my esports racing and it's qualifying time, your heart starts, you're breathing, you start sort of, I start shaking and sweating, and is it those kind of things, or what, and you have to, you know, concentrate on your breathing to calm yourself down? How did it manifest itself for you, the pressure, when you're out there?
That's a hangover, I think, Jack, isn't it?
Probably.
To me, it wasn't a physical manifestation. God, did we just both?
Yeah, this is
big words. It was a more a mental thing, and it was about getting my brain to be very precise and controlled and sharp. So it was all like, again, the breathing and calming my body down, so my brain was as sharp, I was going to say razor sharp, as sharp as it could ever possibly be, and allowing myself to just go out and drive.
And would you have to manage that in the garage and on the outlap, or once you got on the outlap you were fine, or was it all once you got in the car you were fine?
Once the car fired up, it was all done.
Right.
It was all leading up to that, and it was, I mean, this was, I'm talking the whole weekend I would be sort of in that state of, and so it was, which made me quite difficult to live with, I must admit. And I didn't like interruptions or things, outside influences. So it was, yeah, that was the way I dealt with it.
Nick de Vries, the championship leader, who will be dealing with all of these things this weekend. So are you surprised when you see some of the Formula E drivers, especially, are so relaxed?
Yeah.
Like I saw Antonio Felix da Costa this morning. He was skipping, and he shouted across the paddock to me, "Hey, did you give me bad words on the race yesterday?"
I bet he didn't use the...
No, he didn't. He did.
No.
He said, he always goes, "Hey, how much bleep did you give me yesterday?" And I said, "Actually, a bit." He was like, "Well, yeah, I deserved it. We were terrible." So, but like, he's so chilled and laughing and joking. Do you look at that and like, how can you guys do that?
Yeah, and Jake Dennis does the same, I think, here, where Alex Lynn, second quickest at the moment, he's a lot more intense, like I was. Whereas Scott Dixon, he'd be just joking around, and he's like, "Ah, it'll be with his kids and stuff," and he's like, "Okay, right, girls, see you later." Gets in the car and heads off, and I'm like, I've been like spending an hour in my bus, in pure solitude, getting my head into gear, and he's off he goes and just blasts it, and it's just different ways of doing it.
Here is Antonio Felix da Costa. Asked him what went wrong yesterday. He said, "You know, the Cookie Monster, I had that eating my tyres. That's what it felt like," and really struggled. They can, or they are going to try and change setups and settings to deal with that today. They're quick over one lap, as we saw yesterday, locking out the front row, but it's just trying to keep those rear tyres under...
Whatever Mark Preston's texting, he doesn't want to see it.
Exactly. Yeah, it needs to keep those rear tyres under control. Depends on attack mode as well, doesn't it? Whether we get the same 1 times 8 minutes, because that would have been a lot, because the rear tyres also... so I think I didn't really realise that the rear tyres heated up under regen as well. I didn't actually realise that. I thought it was just cornering and on throttle out of acceleration traction zones. I didn't realise regen was heating the tyres too.
Absolutely, it was a big part of it, and as the... it's just like braking, Jack. Just think about it like braking.
Yeah.
If more grip in the track, you can brake harder. But the overheating part as well is... The teams measure the grip level of the track, and that allows them to say, okay, we think we can regenerate X amount in the race, therefore we can go quicker because we can put more energy back into the battery. It's all part of the equation that these teams are dealing with, and yeah, see Mark Preston, he's focused. I think he was a bit surprised yesterday, as we were, at the pace of these two black and gold DS2 Cheetahs, but the amount of changes a team can make overnight, they're huge. We've seen some amazing recoveries, and obviously we've done a lot of double-header races this year. So yeah, I think what happened yesterday is not a massive indicator of what could happen today.
Down into turn 5 for Antonio Felix da Costa, the right-hander. Maybe less overtaking into that corner this time around, because it's a bit of a shorter run, and then we saw some overtaking down into this kind of kink here, didn't we? Because it was I think Van Dorn passed 2 cars, didn't he, down there last year in attack mode, but there's that, it kinks left before the right-hand turn, which makes it tricky, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if the car in front of you is saving more energy than you can, that's a good passing spot. Look at the back of the car coming through 10. But yeah, it's not the best overtaking spot, because you try and just feather the brakes all the way through turn 6 into the braking zone of in fact, turn 6 is the braking zone of 7, really. Turn 1 pass down the inside into here, but it makes it very difficult.
He cannot brake on combined. rear locking, a lot of rear locking, and on peak pressure, front locking.
So a lot of rear locking, says Da Costa, and on peak pressure, so presumably when he's hitting the pedal the hardest, the fronts are locking as well.
Yeah, so fronts would lock initially, but then if you saw the car from above on the shot there into one, the whole car was sliding the rear, as he says, combined when you're trying to turn and brake at the same time. It wasn't having it, so we'll change some settings on the, maybe mechanical settings, springs, dampers, that kind of thing, roll bars, but they'll be changing a lot of powertrain settings as well. See Lucas Di Grassi locking up into turn 2, missing the apex a bit. They've got the car nice and straight in power.
Van Dorn has gone quickest, a 1 minute 7.775, De Vries second quickest, in attack mode at the moment. I think Van Dorn's lap might have been in attack mode also, as Di Grassi comes down into the right-hander. We go on with driver's eye for the race winner yesterday. Had a lovely chat with him after the race, which you can see in the race show later on, and it was just really interesting to speak to him and his love of Formula E, and saying that, you know, he sees in 2 or 3 years himself retiring and either wanting to run the series or become a team principal or something like that. So why would he go and do another series for a couple of years? Said he's 99% certain where he's going to be on the Formula E grid next year. But he wouldn't say where, obviously. 17.5 minutes to go. Alan McNish.
I would put money on Lucas Di Grassi being a team principal. I just think it's in his makeup and his DNA. See Nick De Vries locking the outside tyre. This is into turn 6, that kink we were talking about. Manages to get it unlocked. And the super slow-mo. Track conditions are a lot colder this morning. The sun hasn't really risen properly yet, and the furnace of Berlin hasn't been turned up fully, so the track will feel different. Have probably less grip this afternoon, certainly in qualifying and the race.
Through the final couple of corners and out over the start-finish line. It's the Mahindra of Alex Lynn, who, difficult day yesterday after 2 podiums in London. He has not dropped out of title contention, but 17 points off the lead of Nick De Vries, and it's so tight up at the front, you have to think that he's not really in the fight. Alex Lynn, after yesterday, Alexander Sims. In fact, he got out qualified by Alexander Sims for I think only the 3rd time this season or something. It's I think Lynn has the best teammate. Yeah, it's now 11-3 to Lynn in terms of qualifying battles. So a very rare occasion for Sims out qualifying Lynn yesterday.
Yeah, there was a penalty for Fanboost.
Yes.
Basically, I think he pushed it Fanboost, and the power spiked too much, and so that was the problem there. So it was, I think he made his way up to about 13th or something, and so the a point was possible, but yeah, then it was a drive-through penalty. Yeah, so the balance of the Mahindra needed a bit of work overnight. Speaking to Dilbag Gill on the way in this morning, he said, yeah, we just need to get the car better for today, and that was a story for, we've talked about a lot of different people having that same issue.
On board with Lynn as we come now into turn 7 and 8. No, 8 and 9, and now into 10.
Just look how long this corner is. Once he gets the car settled back to the throttle, and then just that. Tell you what, the power down of the Mahindra there was good.
Roland's gone to the top of the times on an attack mode lap, a 1 minute 7.143. Lynn goes 10th and didn't actually improve on that last lap, Alex Lynn. As out of the pit lane there comes Mitch Evans in the Jaguar. And Lynn coming through the hairpin now of turn 2.
Yeah, this looks more like a sort of a race run, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, a bit of a snap oversteer on entry and initial power for Robin French when he see him get to the throttle.
And he braked too late into turn 1, I believe, as well.
Oh, did he? So look at it sliding. It was already sliding as soon as he touched the brake pedal, and that's the hard bit about qualifying, or one of the many hard bits about qualifying today. You haven't been on the track for a couple of hours, you come rocking down to turn 1, you touch the brake pedal where you touched it in practice, and there's less grip and the car just slides off.
Yeah.
Game over, start at the back.
And it was that corner yesterday where France did exactly that, wasn't it?
In the opposite direction.
In the opposite direction.
Yeah. Difference being he had the whole lap to feel the grip level out, and he just pushed that little bit too hard.
Didn't actually speak to him after qualifying or the race yesterday, Robin Freitz, as he comes out across the line. And this lap is not going to be a quick one. You see the bottom half of the field all in the pits now, as we have just gone past the halfway point in this first free practice session. Mortara slots up into 4th place on an attack mode lap by the looks of things for the Venturi, and he is in the championship fight. He's 2nd in the standings, and maybe...
Jack, I had a thought about Mortara last night. Odd thing to say, I know.
Yeah. No, but to be fair, of all the drivers to pop into your head at night, I think Eduardo Mortara would be a favourite.
But he missed, remember that Saudi race he missed, did not start because there was an issue in practice, and the car slammed into the wall and he wasn't able to start the race. So he missed him. He missed one of the Saudi races, having finished 2nd in the first race at Saudi.
Yeah.
Where would that have put him? What would that have made his championship look
the
like?
attack mode didn't work. I think I didn't press hard enough on the attack mode. What do you want me to do?
Next lap is a push 200.
What I would say is, Edo, don't do that in the race.
Yeah. Didn't push hard enough.
On the button,
Yeah.
interesting.
13 minutes to go. Mortara coming out of the final corner. Well, his lights are flashing on attack mode, but he doesn't appear to be in attack mode. He's on Fanboost here, so he might have gone to 250, or he might. They said it would be a push 200 on the next lap, didn't they, on the radio? So here comes Mortara out across the line, and just practicing his Fanboost, then down the start, finish straight, Eduardo Mortara. But it's weird because the halo's flashing, but the timing screens aren't saying he's in 250. So yeah, and I think Mortara's a bit confused as well about what's actually going on there. So
it looks very low grip. I'm just watching everybody sliding around, and so I don't think we saw this much action yesterday. You thought somebody crashed here, didn't you, Jack? I saw you look down at the timing screen and then look back up. That was them running over the curb in turn 4. There's the attack mode activation zone. Sensors in slightly different positions today than they were in yesterday in the opposite direction.
So just in a camera. Very much a sort of mid of the grid performance yesterday from Sede Camera, as you'd expect with the Dragon car. Qualified 18th and finished 18th. Across the line comes Evans to go 2nd quickest, a 10th slower than Oliver Rowland on an attack mode lap. So still not full power for any of these drivers. I'd have thought with maybe 7 minutes to go we might see a full power run or two. Well, one, because they're only allowed to do one. Sede Camera goes 6th quickest, a 2nd slower than Rowland. Brazilian coming down into the first corner, followed by Oliver Turvey in the Neo. It's Tom Blomqvist, my apologies. And then, oh, Sede Camera dawdling a little on the apex of 2.
Yeah, it was a bit out of order. The mirrors don't work very well because you see the wings above the rear wheels, that sort of blocks the view of the mirrors. So you really need the team to be saying to you, okay, in that case, Tom Blomqvist behind you on a push lap, you know, look out for him in turn 2, whatever. And that communication is constant between engineer and car.
Da Costa keeping out of the way of Sebastian Buemi. There goes Blomqvist. Up now into 8 and 9 again. These two left-handers where we saw some overtaking. Was it De Grassi went quite forceful on Jean-Eric Verne into turn 8, and we said it was a bit forceful on the radio, and then he had a bit of a go at us afterwards, didn't he, in the pit lane? Do you remember that?
Yes. He does do that occasionally. I said to him, I was having this chat with him this morning, I said, you know, when you do something wrong, I'll give you a hard time, but yesterday was a mega race. His racecraft was fantastic.
His dummy on Natto was beautiful.
It was, isn't it, though?
Beautiful.
Absolutely. Now, I do think, Jack, I think that turn 8-9 today is going to come into play. I keep saying it. I think the championship's going to come down to people really getting aggressive and getting their elbows out there.
Decent lap from Joel Eriksson. He's just gone 5th quickest in attack mode. 4/10 of a second away from Oliver Rowland. Has really struggled in qualifying, Joel Eriksson, yet to out-qualify his teammate Sergio Sede Camera. Only 7 races into his Formula E career, admittedly, but yesterday he qualified 24th, a 2nd slower than Sede Camera, so hasn't quite got up to speed over 1 lap, has the Swede, which we see so often from rookies. It's either they come in and bam, they nail it, or they come in and bam, they're nowhere and have to work up to it.
Well, this man, Oliver Rowland, he absolutely nailed it, didn't he, when he came into Formula E the first year, just pole position. He definitely got a hang of it. But saying that, in defence of Ericsson, Seti Camera's pretty special.
Well, he's actually an example of a rookie who came into Berlin last year and I think made it into Super Bowl a couple of times.
Oliver Rowland goes, he's P1 at the moment. I said go P1, I should have paid more attention this time on the screen. Stoffel van Dorn now out of championship contention, but he'll still want to obviously win the race today. But as I said earlier, how much of a team game will Mercedes EQ play now that they've got Stoffel van Dorn in reserve almost?
How much of a team game can they play? Because they didn't really have much pace yesterday in qualifying. No major errors, it seemed, from De Vries in the way that we did from Freins. They complained that maybe they got a bit of traffic because they had to hurry up because Jake Dennis was coming, but Freins was still going slowly. But then Van Dorn had a fairly clean lap, I think in Group 3, and still went slower than De Vries managed in Group 1.
Yeah, Van Dorn's lap just wasn't good. I don't know what the reason was, but you're right, Jack. It didn't look bad. Just the timing wasn't great. De Vries was doing all that late defending again yesterday in the race. Yeah. At some point, one of the other drivers is just going to have had enough. I mean, I think today might be the day with the championship on the line, so you have to be very careful with that.
There's Ian James, team principal of the Mercedes EQ squad. Toto Wolff here yesterday rather amusingly said, didn't he, that he came onto the grid and turned left and then was like, oh no, I've got to turn right, haven't I? I'm not used to this.
Oh, exactly. That's what happens when you've got probably 20 cars that can all win a race. They don't qualify on ball. It's just so competitive, you never know where you are. But it's good to see Toto. He is a proper motorsport fan.
Well, DS Techeetah are actually a good example of that. They were 22nd and 23rd in the last race in London, and they were 1st and 2nd here in Berlin yesterday. Pascal Wehrlein got damage early on, didn't he, after contact trying to defend and got a left rear puncture.
Yeah, he didn't. Oliver was trying to defend from Oliver Rowland, did a late defence, and Oliver Rowland was already there, and essentially Wehrlein drove into the front of Rowland's car and got a puncture. So it wasn't his most well thought out defence, I would say.
No, indeed, it was a little bit. The horse had bolted, wasn't it?
Yeah.
As he comes out of the final corner, Pascal Wehrlein, and across the line. Cuts the timing beam, goes 17th quickest, 7/10 of a second slower than Oliver Rowland. I think that was an attack mode push lap by the looks of things. Things are a little more spread out today so far. We haven't had the full power runs yet. We've got 6 minutes to go, so I imagine those are in the pits, and you can see quite a lot of the drivers in the pits are going to leave imminently and go out and do a
there's a Mercedes
run.
EQ scuba diver.
I was going to say, have I seen that before?
Yesterday did it, because I made the same joke yesterday.
Oh, did you?
Look, was it
Nicky
FP2
with Nicky?
Yeah, Nicky and I were. So
no other team has that, do they?
Mostly they use the electric guns.
Yeah.
And they make the really annoying noise when we're trying to do links after the race. Yeah. But I don't know. Maybe they feel they wanted tires to be. This is a more efficient way of doing it,
or a faster way, or something.
Or they get a higher torque value in the wheel nut, so it doesn't fall off.
Because presumably that system there, the air pressure-y thing, is what you have in other series when you have the cables running over the pit box and down the other side. And in IndyCar, the ones like on the lead, and they then like just haul them back in like a tape measure.
Where I sit in the IndyCar stand, it's exactly where the crew chief throws the gun. I think he's trying to throw it at me. Actually, a couple of times he might have been trying to throw it at me for some of my comments, but it's pretty scary. And then you've got somebody, as you say, pulling the cord. They're
going to pit in the race, change their rear tyres if the safety car's out.
If you're at the back, you would, wouldn't you? Depends. You've got 2 sets of tyres for the weekend, though. So your first set already knackered from yesterday's race.
Well, that's true.
Knackered being a technical term.
Right, Tom Blomqvist up to full power. Coming down now towards turn 2. He's the first driver to go out at full power. And he's nowhere near turn 2.
Turn 2.5.
Very good. Now into this left-hander. 3 and 4 are quite a fun sequence, actually. 4 especially looks kind of more fun than 7 did yesterday.
Yeah, so you've got the wall in 3, so you've got to apex that wall. Very easy to make a mistake and hit it, because that sets you up for turn 4. But then as you come out of 4, you're never actually straight as you break into 5 in the attack mode. So how's Blomqvist looking here? Should learn to read the timing screen. Yeah, he's 4/10 off already. I think that was probably his turn 2 miss, shall we say. Well, Mortara's on a lap though.
Yeah, he's only in attack mode, Eduardo Mortara, but he's going to set the benchmark time. Here comes Tom Blomqvist out of the final corner in that tricky-to-drive Neo, and he goes 13th fastest. Van Doorn has done a reasonable first sector, but he's not as quick as Mortara is. De Vries has done a good first sector on full power. This is Stoffel Van Doorn. Mortara actually only goes 3rd quickest, so Roland's time of a 7.143 still stands for now. Cassidy's done a good first sector. Here comes Van Doorn across the line. It's going to be close with him and Roland's lap time, and he goes quicker by less than 1/10 of a second. But Nick De Vries is way up on his teammate Stoffel Van Doorn. He's got a bit of traffic. Robin Freitz, his compatriot, keeping out of the way. De Vries now into turn 10. The long right-hander, and they seem to go almost a little wider in the mid part of that corner to get more drive onto the straight.
Exactly, trying to straighten the car up a bit for when they go to full throttle. And De Vries to the top, 106.6.
3/10 quicker than his teammate Stoffel Van Doorn. Roland is fractionally quicker than De Vries in the first sector. There is Toto Wolff. And there is René Rast. Cassidy's made a big error in the middle sector. He was the quickest of anyone in sector 1, but has lost a lot of time. Vern's on full power. Freitz is sliding. They have to keep it really tight, don't they, out of that left-hander of 3. I love it. It's a real quick change of direction. Jean-Eric Verne is a 10th up on Nick De Vries in sector 1. Oliver Roland goes 2nd quickest on a full power lap, so he improves his lap time a little. Verne through the middle sector split here, and he's now 800ths away, so that's a good-looking lap time from Nick De Vries. A bit more like it from Mercedes EQ. Jake Dennis is 3/10 down on De Vries' time after the middle sector. Freitz is 6/10 down. Lotter is 2/10 down after sector 1. De Costa is 2/10 down after sector 2. So De Vries could be topping the times here. Jean-Eric Verne cuts the timing beam, 3rd quickest for the Frenchman. Didn't improve his final sector. Freitz goes up into 10th place, 6/10 of a second away. Dennis goes 4th, 1/4 of a second away from Nick De Vries. And here is Mitch Evans now, flashing through the curb, leaning on the car, coming down to 5.
Lovely bit of oversteer, got it through 5, a nice long corner. Look how long you're turning in turn 5, great view. Mitch Evans just watch his head moving around, he's looking at the dash, and he's just going to start looking now, the eyes, there you go, looking at the apex wall.
3/10 away after the first 2 sectors. Sam Bird, I think he's on a prep lap and about to fire it up, I would have thought. Unless he's already done his flying lap, in which case it's not great. Here comes Evans out of the final corner. Yeah, Bird goes full power, so we've got the Jaguar lap time still to come. Verline goes 7th quickest. Evans across the line goes 6th. 3/10 away from Nick De Vries. Sims goes into 8th position. De Grassi has gone quicker than De Vries in sector 1. Sese Camera and Turvey are a 10th away. Here is Lucas De Grassi. Race winner from yesterday, a man very much in championship contention, right up towards the wall, and he feels happy because he knows if he does the maximum job today, he'll win the championship. If he gets pole position and wins the race, he wins the championship, which is true for the top 5 or 6 in the standings. It is very much in their own hands.
Absolutely right, Jack. I've got to say that it looks like the Audi's understeering, the front of the car sliding, certainly through the corners we saw there, turn 5 and 6. Just didn't look like it was turning as well as he would have liked it. Let's see what he does though.
De Grassi goes 6th, so quick in sector 1, 2/10 away in sector 2 and a 10th in sector 3. Sam Bird is half a second away after the first 2 sectors in the Jaguar. So this is going to be, well, might be sort of top 15 for Bird here, depending what happens. 22.6, so he's almost 3/10 of a second off the pace in the first sector. In fact, there was almost 4/10 away in sector 1, so it must have been an error in sector 1. A couple of tenths away in sector 2 as well, and does a 1 minute 7.4, 7/10 adrift from Nick De Vries, and 18th quickest, just slower than Robin Freitz. So De Vries, De Costa, Roland, Verne, Dennis, deGrassi, Evans. I think your top 7 there looking very strong, and all bar Roland in title contention. This is going to be great. This is going to be really great.
But it's definitely worth trying. Trying what? In FP2. Oh, yeah, yeah.
See, this is the bit.
Oh, what's worth trying in FP2?
I would be totally and stop talking as soon as I saw the camera.
That's what deGrassi's good at, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah, Albert Lau there's just, he's thought, yeah, no. He might even be writing notes now and do sort of
yeah.
showing Nick de Vries's driver exactly what he's thinking.
So championship leader, quickest in free practice 1. Very encouraging for Mercedes EQ after such a difficult day yesterday. Goes to get Wade, but everybody else is very much in the mix. We'll give you the full points permutations before the race itself, after qualifying, because there's 4 points up for grabs there, and if one of the top drivers in the championship gets pole position, gets the 4 points, I think 4 points would be tough actually, because I don't think they'd top the groups qualifying necessarily.
Agreed.
Being out in Group 1, but if they got 3 points, Mortara could move to the joint level on points if he's got pole position. Now, he does have the record of the most Formula E starts without a pole position, Eduardo Mortara, admittedly, on 45. Today would be the day to do it, wouldn't it?
No time like the present.
But Dennis, if Dennis got pole position, he would just be 1 point behind de Vries, and so that would change the whole sort of complexion entirely. So we'll give you the full breakdown when the race comes around. A few more practice starts. Joel Eriksson and Sam Bird. Eduardo Mortara laid down a load of rubber, didn't he, there before he did his practice start.
Just to put it into perspective, about 55 minutes time the next practice session starts.
Yeah, not much time to make changes and to get your head around the data from that first practice session. Very kind of Albert to warn the cameraman that the Envision Virgin car was coming in. Jean-Eric Verne, 4th quickest. Not out of title contention, Verne. 9th in the standings, though, as he looks to become a triple champion in Formula E. 6th yesterday, and you can... well, we'll go through the results, then remind me to ask you this question. But let's have a look back now at the results of the first free practice session. And it is Nick de Vries who is quickest, a 1 minute 6.688. A 10th quicker than Antonio Felix da Costa. Jean-Eric Verne 2 tenths away, a quarter of a second back to Jake Dennis. So much bigger field spread today. Maybe that will tighten up in the second practice session that we have coming up, as Dario said, in just under an hour's time. 9:25 local time we will be on air. The session gets underway at 9:30 and it's at 8:34 as we speak. Van Dorn 8th quickest, Pascal Wehrlein 10th. The 2 Rocket Venturis a little bit adrift, Norman Nato and Eduardo Mortara in 11th and 12th. Freitz, Bird, Cassidy struggling a little with the pace. Those 3, Nick well, I already said Nick Cassidy, but those 3 in particular are the front runners that you'd expect to be a little further up the order, at least in the top half, and I think they would probably agree with that. There's Antonio Felix da Costa straight into the debrief. What was I going to ask you? Oh, I can't even remember now.
You're going to ask me to remind you of stuff, the man with multiple head injuries.
Yeah.
Let me get right on that.
It was going to be something about how much you can change the setup, but it wasn't exactly that, so I'll have to remember some other time.
I'm hearing more and more people complaining of the front of the car just being dead, numb.
I've just remembered what it was.
Did you see what I said there? Those understeer is so prevalent. The front of the cars are just not working. We saw that with Lucas de Grassi's, that the Jaguar's complaining of that too. Continue.
If the DS Techeetahs have trouble in the race pace, once you get to lap 20, they're in trouble.
Yes.
They've only done 15 laps in this session. 3 or 4 of those will be push laps. Can you even practice getting things fixed in this session for race trim, because you don't have the tyres all the time to really practice it. You see what I mean?
Explain.
So when the tyres start to go away,
Yeah.
which is what DS Techeetah struggled with,
20 laps in.
you can't replicate that in this session.
No, absolutely not.
So you can't know if your changes work.
We use experience to say, yeah, that is it's going in the direction. I feel that's what's going to happen. You've made it better. You've not improved it. You've made it worse. So yes, you can.
Okay. There's Lucas de Grassi taking off his helmet. And don't forget, you can get involved in the action as well. Scan the QR code or head to FIAFormulaE.com/Fanboost. And De Vries, De Costa, Evans, De Grassi and Van Dorn, the top 5 at the moment. Lynn just outside, and Sims. Big boost from Mahindra this weekend in the Fanboost Stakes. Nick Cassidy wants your votes. He is 12th at the moment, but Lucas de Grassi up there, and Fanboost could decide the championship, couldn't it? If you've got a Fanboost to attack or defend with the points this tight, it's going to be absolutely fascinating. First free practice on the final day of the season on a beautiful sunny day in Berlin. Lucas de Grassi, race winner from yesterday. Everybody else piling out onto the track straight away, weaving around to try and get some temperature into the tyres. Mitch Evans and Sam Bird running in unison in the Jaguars. Looping around the double left-hander, then into turn 10. Mortara right up to the wall. The tricky turn 2 may well be an overtaking spot today. In fact, turn 1 and then a fight back into turn 2 could be really quite interesting. Sebastian Buemi qualified well yesterday, got into Superpole but struggled in the race. Nick de Vries had a bit of a lock-up in the early stages. So did Alex Lynn down at the second corner. But de Vries looking particularly strong. Norman Nato and Eduardo Mortara could only manage 11th and 12th for the Rocket Venturi team. Jean-Eric Verne ended up 4th quickest. Him and his teammate Antonio Felix da Costa both inside the top 4. They locked out the front row yesterday, but race pace is going to be their stress today. Oliver Rowland was 3rd quickest, but it was Nick de Vries in the Mercedes EQ that set the quickest lap time. Championship leader, top of the times after FP1. Right, we'll see you in less than an hour. 45 minutes, and we will be back on air for the second free practice session, the second and final half hour of practice in this ABB FIA Formula E World Championship season. It's going to be a crucial day. It will decide the world champion. Will it be that guy? Will it be de Vries? There's 14 drivers in contention. Make sure you join us for free practice 2, where we'll get a bit of a clearer view.